Picture a sprawling driveway lined with century-old oak trees, their branches forming a grand, shadowy canopy. At the end of this quiet approach stands the majestic Oakhaven Manor, its marble columns gleaming under the moonlight. In the hush of midnight, a sleek black limousine pulls up to the front steps, delivering the triumphant millionaire Ethan Vanderbilt. He's not alone. Clinging to his arm is Scarlett Hayes, a dazzling model with secrets of her own. Ethan steps out, brimming with confidence, prepared to flaunt his latest conquest. Little does he know, behind those massive double doors, his pregnant wife already waits with a pair of earth-shattering surprises. Ethan Vanderbilt was born in Santa Barbara, California, in the early 1980s. He was the youngest son of a middle-class family whose only luxury was a subscription to National Geographic. His parents, Richard and Eleanor Vanderbilt, both taught at the local community college. Though they were hardly wealthy, they instilled in Ethan the idea that knowledge could open doors that money alone could never pry open. Ethan, a sharp-eyed, wiry kid with a stubborn streak, found solace in reading about faraway lands. He dreamed of traveling to Africa, exploring the Amazon, and someday having enough money to live in a grand estate of his own. In high school, Ethan's natural charm made him popular among peers. Though not an exceptional athlete, he excelled in debate and showed a fierce determination to win any argument. Teachers praised him for his intelligence and tenacity. But behind the confident demeanor lay an unsatisfied hunger. He wanted more, always more. This insatiable thirst for success would become his defining trait, one that propelled him through life at breakneck speed. By the time he graduated, Ethan had his sights set on Stanford University. Through scholarships and financial aid, he secured enrollment in the prestigious institution. There, he fell in love with economics and business. By senior year, he was running an investment club with 40 members. They pooled their modest funds and tested the volatile waters of the stock market. Ethan didn't just want to break even. He aimed to dominate the market. Armed with cunning strategies and long nights studying charts, he managed to bring their returns to remarkable heights. Word spread about his uncanny ability to see market trends before they became mainstream. Upon graduation, Ethan accepted a position at a well-known financial firm in New York. Only 22, he was already sitting in conference rooms with high-profile clients, including the likes of Warren Buffett's associates and other billionaires scouting fresh talent. Ethan took every opportunity he could to glean wisdom from these industry titans. His nights were spent with spreadsheets, analyzing stock movements, and his days were consumed by endless networking. Over the next decade, Ethan rose to prominence. He founded his own investment firm, Vanderbilt Capital Management, and took his net worth from a humble few thousand to tens of millions, then hundreds of millions. Eventually, his name appeared on the covers of financial magazines. He became a recognized figure, invited to speak at conferences worldwide. Yet, Ethan's ambition was boundless. He set his eyes on surpassing every record in the book and building a personal life that reflected his success. It was during this lofty ascent that he met Olivia Prescott, a descendant of old money. Olivia was a well-educated philanthropist known for championing causes related to women's health. She was radiant in a quiet way, elegant, thoughtful, and possessed of a moral compass that ran deeper than Ethan's relentless drive for acquisition. Her mother, Catherine Prescott, was once part of a philanthropic circle involving the late Princess Diana, donating to charitable organizations across Europe. The Prescott heritage included a storied estate in the Hamptons and connections to aristocrats in England. Ethan was attracted to Olivia's poise and the air of dignity she carried wherever she went. Their relationship started gently. Long walks by the shoreline in East Hampton, quiet dinners at exclusive clubs, intellectual discussions about the future of finance and philanthropy. Before long, Ethan realized that Olivia wasn't just another accessory to be paraded around. She was a pillar of wisdom and stability, someone who kept him tethered to his humanity when greed tugged him off center. The world watched in fascination when Ethan and Olivia wed in a grand ceremony at the Prescott family's estate. Media outlets splashed their pictures across the front pages, calling it the merger of new money and old-world grace. In an unexpected twist of sincerity, Ethan's vows to Olivia were heartfelt. He promised to love, protect, and treasure her, never letting wealth overshadow his devotion to her and any future family they might have. But the shadows of desire and ambition sometimes morph into darker forms. Even as Ethan soared to greater financial heights, he found himself haunted by a restless energy. He wanted excitement, passion, anything to satiate an appetite for novelty that neither Olivia's serene presence nor his legitimate business triumphs could fully feed. And so, the seeds of betrayal were sown. Olivia's life had revolved around philanthropic ventures long before she met Ethan. But her marriage brought new challenges. She struggled to find a balance between supporting Ethan's insatiable ambitions and preserving her own identity. With each passing year, Ethan's name grew in the financial sector, which meant more publicity, more parties, more demands. Olivia attended numerous galas as the gracious hostess. She wore dazzling gowns, smiled for photos, and patiently listened to endless conversations about stocks and corporate expansions. In private, Olivia was not as meek as the media painted her to be. She had her convictions. She often confronted Ethan about certain investments that seemed questionable, environmentally damaging ventures, profits extracted from borderline unethical deals. Ethan would smile and reassure her that everything was within legal bounds. "This is how we fund your charities," he teased. "We do well, and then we do good." Most of the time, Olivia would sigh, letting the conversation fade. She recognized that Ethan's approach to business was a far cry from her father's gentler style. Still, she believed in her husband's underlying decency. Years into the marriage, Olivia yearned for a child. At first, Ethan brushed off the topic. "Let's solidify the business," he would say. "Let me cross a few major milestones, and then we'll talk about starting a family." Deep down, Olivia suspected Ethan was afraid to be pinned down by the responsibilities of fatherhood. He thrived on risk, spontaneity, and the freedom to jet off to Europe or Asia at a moment's notice if a deal demanded it. However, the unstoppable march of time and a near-death experience Olivia's father, Arthur, had a sudden stroke galvanized them. Realizing how fragile life could be, Ethan agreed they should try for a child. In the following months, Olivia discovered she was pregnant, and the new reality thrilled her. She glowed with expectancy, her philanthropic work pivoting to focus on maternal health and child welfare. Ethan seemed happy about the news at first, but his reaction lacked the effusive zeal she had hoped for. She told herself it was simply Ethan's nature to remain collected, even about momentous life changes. During the pregnancy, Olivia took refuge in the quiet comforts of Oakhaven Manor, an estate the couple had purchased in the countryside of upstate New York. Surrounded by lush forests and rolling hills, it provided the perfect retreat from the swirling chaos of Manhattan life. There, away from public scrutiny, Olivia could focus on preparing for motherhood. Ethan often visited on weekends, always claiming he was too busy with urgent business deals during the week. As months rolled on, Olivia began to suspect that Ethan's late nights and business trips might not all be about closing deals. Even so, Olivia tried to cast aside her doubts. She had twins on the way to lives growing within her, two blessings that she believed would knit her and Ethan closer together. She wrote in her diary each day, documenting every emotional shift, every flutter in her belly, and every dream she had of a future filled with children's laughter echoing through the manor's halls. In these private moments, Olivia recounted her grandmother's stories of how love in a marriage was tested in unthinkable ways, but devotion and faith often carried couples through the darkest storms. She had no idea that her test would come so soon or in such a heart-wrenching manner. Scarlett Hayes was the kind of woman people instinctively watched as soon as she walked into a room. With almond-shaped hazel eyes and wavy auburn hair cascading to her waist, she emanated a fiery energy that demanded attention. She had been raised in a modest household in San Diego, her father a retired Marine, her mother a struggling painter. Despite their limited means, Scarlett's parents poured their hearts into supporting her talents, whether it was ballet, painting, or modeling. By 18, Scarlett signed with an upscale modeling agency and discovered a taste for the finer things in life. The swirling lights of fashion shows, designer gowns, and the glittering stares of cameras dazzled her. She lived for backstage parties and exclusive VIP events where she rubbed shoulders with celebrities and moguls. Over time, she learned how to charm men of power. That charm wasn't always innocent. For Scarlett, it became a method of survival and advancement in a cutthroat world. If she played her cards right, she could secure financial stability that might otherwise elude her. Her path crossed with Ethan Vanderbilt on a private yacht off the coast of Monaco. Ethan was there for a high-profile tech conference, and Scarlett had been hired to model for a European luxury brand. The second Ethan saw her laughing on the deck, wearing an opulent emerald gown that clung to her figure, he felt an old, forbidden spark ignite. He introduced himself with characteristic smoothness. Ethan Vanderbilt of Vanderbilt Capital Management. Might I ask whose stunning presence I'm fortunate enough to share this deck with? Scarlett knew the name. Anyone in high society did. She smiled coyly. Scarlett Hayes. A pleasure to meet you, Mr. Vanderbilt. Over champagne flutes, they exchanged banter about the future of cryptocurrencies and the enthralling but superficial nature of fashion. She was witty. He was enthralled. One conversation led to another, and soon the shimmering lights of Monaco's coastline faded into the hush of the night. Ethan found himself lost in Scarlett's raw magnetism, a stark contrast to Olivia's graceful composure. Despite knowing full well that he was married, his ring was conspicuous, and the media had documented his marriage extensively. Scarlett fueled Ethan's flirtation. To her, men like Ethan offered not just adventure, but entry into circles with deeper pockets. The moral transgression didn't worry her. She had grown accustomed to seeing powerful men cheat on their wives, and in her line of work, infidelity was treated as a negotiable taboo. Before the yacht docked, Ethan and Scarlett shared a clandestine kiss on the upper deck, hidden from prying eyes by the summer darkness. Ethan told himself it was just a fleeting moment of indiscretion. He was a man on top of the world. Why shouldn't he savor every flavor of pleasure life offered? But fleeting infatuations can quickly grow into an all-consuming secret. When Ethan returned to New York, he found excuses to see Scarlett again, ostensibly for business, though they both knew it was anything but. She became his shadow at exclusive clubs, late-night penthouse soirees, and business trips where he needed a companion to keep him entertained. He showered her with designer handbags, diamond jewelry, and even helped her land more lucrative modeling gigs. Scarlett, for her part, clung to Ethan's generosity, offering him the rush of a hidden romance he couldn't get from his stable married life. Weeks turned into months, and their affair deepened. Scarlett reveled in the luxurious life Ethan provided. 5-star hotels, exotic vacations, lavish gifts. Meanwhile, Ethan craved her presence like a drug, ignoring any semblance of guilt. He told himself Olivia was preoccupied with her charities, her pregnancy. There was no harm in letting off some steam. In a moment of recklessness, Ethan invited Scarlett to spend a weekend at Oakhaven Manor. It was an impulsive plan born from a chaotic swirl of desire and pride. After all, Olivia was supposed to be spending those days in Manhattan for a friend's baby shower, or so Ethan believed. Little did he realize Olivia had cut her city trip short, too exhausted to endure the social rigmarole and determined to relax in her own home. Destiny was about to orchestrate a collision of secrets, lies, and revelations that would upend everyone's lives. Under the silver glow of a crescent moon, Ethan's limousine glided up to Oakhaven Manor's gates. The estate's sweeping landscape looked hauntingly beautiful. Tall cypress trees swayed, and the ornate fountain at the entrance sparkled with watery moonbeams. Scarlett leaned against Ethan in the back seat, her manicured nails lightly tracing patterns on his arm. She giggled. I can't believe you own all of this. It's like a castle from a fairy tale. Wait until you see the inside, Ethan bragged. Your jaw will drop. He had always wanted to show off Oakhaven to Scarlett. It was one of his ultimate trophies, a testament to how far he'd climbed from his humble upbringing. He had told the chauffeur to arrive late, betting that the staff would be minimal at this hour. Normally, Olivia might have been at the manor, but Ethan was confident she was in Manhattan until Monday. He anticipated a weekend of unrestrained passion and indulgence, free from prying eyes and moral repercussions. To ensure privacy, Ethan had earlier texted Mrs. Gable, Oakhaven's long-standing housekeeper, telling her to take Sunday off. He explained that he had a private gathering with an important client. Mrs. Gable dutifully obeyed, leaving only a skeleton crew on night duty. Ethan had also given strict instructions to keep the gates closed and to remain out of sight unless summoned. Everything was orchestrated like a stage play, with Ethan as the star performer. However, Ethan's carefully crafted plan crumbled the moment the limousine approached the circular driveway. The grand double doors of the manor swung open, and out stepped Olivia, clearly pregnant, her usually gentle face etched with outrage. Her hand rested protectively on her belly, the fabric of her pale, blue maternity dress fluttering in the night breeze. The overhead carriage lights illuminated her figure, making her look both ethereal and formidable. Ethan felt his breath catch in his throat. Confusion and dread erupted within him. For a moment, Scarlett was just as stupefied, her eyes darting between Ethan and the furious woman on the threshold. "Who is that?" she whispered sharply, though deep down she suspected the answer. No one spoke as the driver opened the door. Ethan stepped out first, feeling as though he were walking into a vortex of shame and disbelief. Olivia's voice finally cut through the silence. "So, it's true," she hissed, her voice a venomous whisper that cut through the stillness. "All the late nights, the secret phone calls, I tried to tell myself I was just being paranoid." Ethan opened his mouth, but couldn't form words. Olivia's expression twisted into a lethal mix of heartbreak and anger. Her gaze flicked to Scarlett, who also emerged from the limousine, her face partially hidden by large designer sunglasses she'd neglected to remove. For a second, Scarlett contemplated slinking back inside the car, but she was too frozen to move. Beneath the manor's elegant facade, the entire world was about to unravel. Inside Oakhaven's sweeping foyer, marbled floors gleamed under a chandelier of crystal teardrops. Ethan stood rooted near the grand staircase. Scarlett, a few feet behind him, felt acutely like an intruder. Olivia, with tears in her eyes, demanded answers. Her voice echoed off the polished surfaces, driving home the magnitude of this confrontation. "How long has this been going on?" she shouted, eyes locked on Ethan. "How many times have you lied to me?" Scarlett's gaze darted nervously. She cleared her throat and decided on an apology, but it sounded hollow, even to her own ears. "I'm so sorry. I didn't realize." Olivia cut her off. "Didn't realize what exactly?" "That he has a wife? That I'm carrying his children." Her voice trembled with bitterness, and her hands pressed against her swollen belly. Ethan finally snapped out of his stupor. "Olivia," he began, stepping closer. "I didn't mean for any of this." She pulled away, tears shimmering on the brink. "Don't come near me." At that moment, thunder rumbled in the distance. It felt as though nature itself lamented the betrayal unfolding within Oakhaven's walls. Ethan's mind churned, searching for a plausible explanation, an apology, a gesture that might quell the fury and heartbreak swirling through the foyer. Yet nothing he could say would excuse what he'd done. Behind him, Scarlett said softly, "I'll just get my things and go." She aimed for an exit strategy, hoping to salvage any shred of dignity. But Olivia wasn't done. "So you leave now? And what then? Another rendezvous in some penthouse next week? Another weekend in a mansion you both think you own?" She shot Ethan a look of pure venom. "You want to embarrass me in front of the entire world, Ethan? Because the paparazzi will eat this alive. There's no hiding from it." A hush enveloped them, broken only by the faint pitter-patter of rain starting outside. Scarlett gripped her handbag, panic in her eyes. Ethan realized in that instant the severity of his situation. A pregnant wife, a mistress, and a public image that could collapse under the weight of scandal. Before anyone could speak again, Olivia crumpled to her knees, a sharp cry escaping her lips. Ethan rushed to her side, alarmed. "Olivia," he exclaimed. "What's wrong?" Her face contorted in pain, her arms instinctively encircling her belly. "I think something's wrong with the babies." The sight of Olivia in apparent distress jolted Ethan's paternal instincts. He forgot about Scarlett, about the affair, about everything else. He scooped Olivia into his arms. "We need to get you to the hospital," he said, voice trembling. At his instruction, the still-present chauffeur quickly rearranged plans to drive to the nearest emergency room. By now, Scarlett was shaking, unsure if she should stay or slip out unnoticed. Ultimately, she followed them to the limousine, perched uncomfortably in the back seat while Ethan cradled Olivia. The ride felt like an eternity, each second thick with tension and fear. Never had Ethan felt so powerless. This was not a financial crisis he could fix with a quick injection of capital or a brilliant stock trade. He was on the brink of losing everything he claimed mattered to him, and possibly even losing the unborn children he had so carelessly taken for granted. They arrived at St. Bernardine's Medical Center in the dead of night, the doors of the emergency ward sliding open under harsh fluorescent lights. Nurses rushed Olivia into an examination room, Ethan trailing closely behind. He hovered by her side, watching with dread as monitors beeped and doctors administered for lines. Scarlett lingered in the waiting area, hands clasped tightly, face pale. She felt starkly out of place. A nurse, noticing her anxious demeanor, whispered, "Are you family?" Scarlett shook her head, barely managing a polite smile. She took a seat, struggling with a mix of guilt, fear, and resentment toward Ethan for putting her in this humiliating position, guilt for playing a role in what might be a catastrophic medical emergency. Inside the examination room, the obstetrician delivered cautious news. Olivia was having contractions prematurely, possibly triggered by emotional stress. The babies were at risk if her blood pressure didn't stabilize soon. Ethan felt a crushing weight. This was the real consequence of his duplicity, not just an angry spouse or a ruined social reputation, but the potential harm to innocent lives. With quiet efficiency, Olivia was transferred to a private room in the maternity wing. Ethan sat by her bedside, stroking her hand, feeling both helpless and regretful. He tried to speak, to offer some comfort, but Olivia flinched away. Her eyes flickered with pain and betrayal. She was a woman who had given her heart, body, and trust to a man who'd taken all three for granted. Hours crawled by. The hospital's white corridors and antiseptic odor provided the backdrop for Ethan's introspection. He had always prided himself on having control over markets, over deals, over his life's narrative. Yet here he was powerless. In the waiting area, Scarlett wrestled with her own turmoil. She texted a friend, stuck at a hospital. "Disaster night. Call you later." She couldn't bring herself to leave. A part of her needed closure, needed Ethan to acknowledge her. But as dawn approached, she realized how naive that longing was. She overheard bits of conversation between nurses. Olivia was stabilized. The twins appeared unharmed for now, but the emotional damage was incalculable. Eventually, Ethan emerged from Olivia's room, dark circles under his eyes. He approached Scarlett, who stood up hastily, her posture stiff. In the empty corridor, they exchanged hushed words. "Are you okay?" Scarlett asked, her voice trembling with concern. "Not really," Ethan admitted, his tone frayed. "Olivia's resting now. The baby seemed to be okay, but it was close." He swallowed, unable to complete the thought. "I can't." Scarlett nodded slowly, tears threatening to spill. "I didn't want this to happen." Ethan let out a shaky breath. "Go back to the manor or a hotel. I'll make arrangements for you. But I can't leave Olivia." Scarlett searched his face, hoping for some signal that their relationship mattered. Instead, she saw a broken man, guilt-ridden and desperate to cling to his wife and unborn children. Words felt futile. She only managed a nod before turning to walk away, the corridor lights flickering overhead like a silent judgment. In that moment, Ethan understood that the life he thought he could compartmentalize was shattered. There would be no neat division between his respectable existence with Olivia and his clandestine affair with Scarlett. Everything had collided, and the fallout would test every inch of his fortitude and Olivia's. News travels fast in privileged circles. By mid-morning, Olivia's parents, Arthur and Catherine Prescott, arrived at the hospital in a flurry of concern and indignation. Catherine, her posture ramrod straight, confronted Ethan in the corridor. "You liar," she hissed, jabbing a finger at his chest. "You made promises, Ethan. My daughter's life and the lives of my grandchildren are at risk because of your disgraceful behavior." Arthur, a gentleman by nature, seemed older and more frail than usual, grief etching lines across his face. "I trusted you," he said softly, his voice laden with disappointment. "You were the one who insisted on waiting for children until you were ready to be a father. And now this." Ethan bowed his head, too ashamed to meet their gazes. "I'm sorry," he murmured. "Truly I am. Nothing I say will justify what happened." Catherine gave a scornful laugh. "That's about the only honest thing you've said so far." With Olivia stable but emotionally shattered, the medical staff advised minimal stress to prevent another crisis. It was agreed that for now, Ethan could stay at the hospital. He was, after all, Olivia's next of kin, but the Prescotts made it clear they'd watch him like hawks. Every hour, Ethan checked in on Olivia, who maintained a stony silence. She gazed out the window, tears occasionally sliding down her cheeks. Sometimes Ethan tried to hold her hand or whisper an apology. Each time, she pulled away. When evening arrived, the Prescotts insisted on a family discussion without Olivia. Ethan, Arthur, and Catherine convened in a small hospital cafeteria, the smell of coffee and antiseptic heavy in the air. The conversation was tense, voices kept to a low hush. Catherine wasted no time. "Ethan, we want you to leave Olivia alone until she recovers. You'll take care of her medical expenses, of course, but you're to stay away until she explicitly asks for you. Understood?" Ethan's mouth fell dry. "Olivia is my wife. I can't abandon her in the hospital." Arthur softened his tone. "We're not saying abandon her. We're saying give her space. Right now, your presence might be doing more harm than good." Catherine's eyes narrowed. "Who knows how many indiscretions you've had behind her back? As far as I'm concerned, you have a lot of explaining to do." "Yes," Arthur agreed, "and perhaps to a divorce lawyer as well." The word divorce lodged like a bullet in Ethan's chest. He'd never considered that Olivia might actually leave him and take the children with her. The possibility ripped open a chasm of fear. At that moment, Ethan realized how precarious his entire empire was. Losing Olivia didn't just mean losing the facade of a happy marriage. It could also mean losing the moral anchor that had partially legitimatized his high society persona. Without Olivia, Ethan Vanderbilt was just another scheming, heartless tycoon with questionable ethics and no family to give him depth or redemption. "Please," he murmured, voice raw, "don't talk of divorce yet. Let me do whatever it takes to earn her trust back." Catherine exhaled sharply. "That's up to Olivia. For now, respect her wishes. If she wants to see you, fine. If she doesn't, you'll keep away." Ethan nodded, too grief-stricken to argue. The only thing that mattered now was Olivia's health and the safety of the twins. Little by little, he realized the irreparable damage he'd caused. If he ever wanted to regain Olivia's love, or even her tolerance, he would have to face an arduous road of restitution, if such a thing was even possible. The weekend passed in a blur. Olivia showed signs of improvement, though her emotional wounds were far from healed. Ethan took Catherine's advice and stayed mostly away, visiting briefly when Olivia gave the green light. He spent his nights at a penthouse suite in a nearby hotel, making calls to business associates and canceling all non-essential trips. Scarlett Hayes, meanwhile, disappeared from his immediate orbit. He'd arranged for her to stay in a luxurious suite at the Ritz-Carlton, and he covered the tab without question. Their exchanges were reduced to terse text messages. She resented being sidelined, but had no choice. During this tumultuous period, Ethan discovered that personal crisis had a way of exposing hidden vulnerabilities in his business empire. A damaging rumor circulated that he was stepping away from Vanderbilt Capital Management due to family issues. Boards of directors, already anxious about market fluctuations, began to question the stability of Ethan's leadership. Some clients hinted they might shift their funds elsewhere if Ethan couldn't personally oversee their accounts. In the midst of these professional woes, Ethan received an unexpected visitor, Chloe Vance, a young journalist from a prominent financial magazine. Chloe had sensed the scandal swirling around the Vanderbilt household and wanted an exclusive story. She cornered Ethan in the hospital lobby, a polite but determined expression on her face. "Mr. Vanderbilt, I'm so sorry to bother you at this difficult time," she began, pressing the record button on her phone. "But rumors are circulating about trouble in your personal life affecting your company. Is there any comment you'd like to make?" Ethan forced a composed smile. "I don't discuss personal matters with the press, Ms. Vance. My family is my priority right now. Vanderbilt Capital Management remains fully operational." Chloe persisted. "Any truth to the allegations about an affair causing your wife's hospitalization?" His jaw clenched. No comment. When a security guard intervened, escorting Chloe away, Ethan felt a jolt of dread. Despite his best attempts to keep the scandal under wraps, the story was leaking. He later discovered that paparazzi photos of him and Scarlett in Monte Carlo had been making rounds online, fueling speculation. The worst part was that Olivia's heartbreak was now tabloid fodder. Back at Oakhaven Manor, Olivia returned to recuperate under medical supervision. Her parents insisted on staying with her, but she also had some quiet moments to reflect. Late one afternoon, Olivia found her way to a seldom-used drawing room lined with dusty oil paintings of the estate's previous owners. There she sank into a velvet armchair, a cup of chamomile tea in hand. Her mind replayed the last few days. The confrontation, the hospital scare, the taste of betrayal. She recalled times when Ethan had been tender and loving, such as the night he proposed. He had taken her to a small island off the coast of Croatia, where they strolled along a moonlit beach. He promised her a life of wonder and fulfillment. Now, those sweet memories clashed with the stinging reality of his infidelity. She wondered if she had been naive, ignoring subtle warning signs all along. The late-night calls, the new cologne that smelled nothing like Ethan's usual preference, the random missing hours he could never fully explain. Perhaps she should have confronted him sooner. Perhaps she should have demanded he slow down, focus on their marriage before it was too late. But regrets, she realized, could never undo the present. In a small burst of determination, Olivia pressed a hand against her belly. The twins moved gently, as if sensing her emotions. She whispered, "We'll be okay. With or without him, we'll make it." For all her heartbreak, Olivia realized she wasn't powerless. She had the children to think about and her own dignity. If Ethan thought he could just walk in and out of their lives at will, he was mistaken. Scarlett Hayes, temporarily sequestered in the Ritz-Carlton, found that the novelty of plush robes and room service quickly waned when tethered to a scandal. She felt like a caged bird, feeding on scraps of reassurance from Ethan's sporadic texts. "We'll talk soon," he would say, or "need time to handle family matters." Weeks ago, Scarlett would have found these messages acceptable, even promising. Now they felt dismissive. She resented being treated as an inconvenient afterthought. One evening, in a fit of frustration, she sought out an old friend in the city, a PR specialist named Jessica Thorne. Over cocktails, Scarlett vented about her predicament, the broken promises, the Manor fiasco, and her uncertain future. Jessica listened with rapt attention, occasionally nodding or taking a sip of her martini. "You're so worried about Ethan's image," Jessica observed. "But what about yours? You stand to lose modeling contracts if the scandal blows up. Or you might actually use it to your advantage if you play your cards right." Scarlett bristled. She wasn't looking to become some gossip sensation. Yet the suggestion swirled in her mind. How could she salvage her own life? Maybe even elevate her status from this mess? A few days later, Jessica set up a clandestine meeting with a tabloid journalist, Leo Maxwell, who was offering top dollar for an exclusive interview from the other woman. Scarlett vacillated. Did she really want to risk Ethan's wrath by selling their story? But the more Ethan ignored her calls, and the more anxious she felt about her livelihood, the more tempting the offer became. Finally, after one particularly icy text from Ethan, "I can't talk right now. Please stop calling," Scarlett snapped. She had built her entire adult life on leveraging opportunities. Why should Ethan Vanderbilt escape unscathed, preserving his marriage and reputation while leaving her hung out to dry? So, Scarlett met with Leo Maxwell in a posh rooftop lounge, wearing oversized sunglasses and a scarf to hide her identity. She demanded a sizable sum for any details about her affair with Ethan Vanderbilt. Leo, practically salivating at the prospect of a sensational scoop, agreed. Over hours and multiple drinks, Scarlett spilled enough intimate details to fuel a front-page headline in every major tabloid. She revealed their first meeting in Monaco, the hush-hush texts, the gifts, the clandestine weekends. The only thing she kept vague was the fiasco at Oakhaven Manor. Some details, she reasoned, might prove too dangerous or humiliating if fully exposed. By the time she left, the weight on Scarlett's shoulders felt partially lifted. She knew the story would break soon, that Ethan would likely feel betrayed and furious. But she also knew she needed to watch out for her own interests. If Ethan wasn't going to make good on his unspoken promises, if he was going to return to Olivia and free Scarlett out, then maybe Scarlett could seize control of the narrative. In a world where wealth and reputation meant everything, public sympathy could be leveraged. Perhaps in the end, she'd emerge from the scandal not as a regretful mistress, but as a cunning survivor. A week later, the tabloids erupted with headlines. Exclusive. Model Scarlett Hayes speaks out on Ethan Vanderbilt affair. The public devoured every detail like vultures on fresh carrion. Pictures of Scarlett in Monaco, in Ethan's penthouse, and near Oakhaven Manor splashed across websites and social media feeds. Gossip shows debated the morality of powerful men who think they can have it all. Stock pundits speculated whether Vanderbilt Capital Management would suffer a mass exodus of clients. Ethan woke up to a flurry of panic calls from business partners, lawyers, and friends. Fury coursed through him at Scarlett's betrayal. He drafted multiple messages to her, each more accusatory than the last. But he never pressed send. He understood that escalation could lead to more damaging revelations. Instead, he pivoted into damage control, a meeting with his legal team to discuss defamation suits, a press statement asserting that personal matters do not affect the integrity of Vanderbilt Capital's mission, and frantic phone calls to major stakeholders, reassuring them he was still firmly at the helm. Olivia, meanwhile, read the tabloids with disgust and heartbreak. She had heard enough from Ethan's admissions and the partial truths gleaned from staff at Oakhaven, but seeing Scarlett's smug face on the covers made it all more real. Her parents tried to shield her from the media storm, but the magnitude was impossible to ignore. At one point, Olivia snapped at Catherine, "No more. I don't want to hear or see anything about that woman. It's my life, my marriage. I'll decide how to handle it." Yet, a part of Olivia felt a strange, unexpected relief. The entire truth was now out there. No more secrets lurking. Ethan's humiliating betrayal was an open wound. Sometimes honesty, even when dragged unwillingly into the public eye, can mark the beginning of genuine healing or a definitive end. A few days into the media circus, Ethan managed to speak privately with Olivia at Oakhaven. She was seated in the sunroom, a blanket over her lap, the warm glow of afternoon light shining through large glass windows. Her pregnancy was still precarious but stable. A nurse milled about, ensuring Olivia's comfort. Ethan took a seat across from her, hands clasped. He looked thinner than usual, his eyes hollow with regret. "Olivia," he began, voice quivering. "I know I can never fully undo what I've done, but I want you to know I'm willing to do anything to make this right." She regarded him with a calmness that unnerved him. "You can't unbreak a heart, Ethan," she replied. "You can only see what grows from the pieces left behind." He swallowed hard, remembering the luminous woman he had married. The thought of losing her and the children shredded whatever bravado remained. I'm committed to therapy, to counseling, anything you need. You and the twins are my priority now. I understand if you hate me or if you'll never trust me again, but I want to try. Olivia let out a slow exhale. I don't have answers yet. I need time to figure out what's best for me and for our children right now. I need stability. No more public scandals. No more late-night cat-and-mouse games. Can you promise me that much? Yes, Ethan whispered, tears pricking his eyes. I promise. Olivia nodded. Then give me space. Provide what I need for the babies and me. Maybe in time, we'll see if there's anything left of this marriage to salvage. Ethan rose to leave, feeling the smallest glimmer of hope. He bent down gently, kissed Olivia's forehead. She didn't resist, but neither did she reciprocate. He walked away with a reverent hush in his chest, determined to do better, uncertain if redemption was truly within reach. The next several months were a crucible of transformation for everyone involved. Olivia stayed at Oakhaven Manor, supported by private nurses and her parents. She meticulously prepared for the twins' arrival, reading parenting books, setting up a nursery, and confiding in a therapist recommended by her obstetrician. She recognized that despite Ethan's betrayal, her children deserved a father if he could prove worthy. Yet, she also realized she was no longer the passive partner she might once have been. She contacted divorce lawyers, not as a definitive move, but as a precaution. Boundaries had to be drawn. Ethan embarked on a public apology tour, though not the typical kind with press conferences. Instead, he quietly reached out to key figures in his professional circle, explaining that he was going through a personal crisis and assuring them of his unwavering commitment to Vanderbilt Capital. He donated a significant sum to maternal health charities, a gesture partly inspired by guilt, partly by a genuine desire to mend the harm. In a rare display of humility, he sought out a private counselor, a stepsister of a friend. Sessions were grueling, forcing him to confront his reckless impulses, his childhood insecurities, and the toxic pursuit of wealth as a balm for every emotion. He began to see that the same drive that made him a financial success had also corroded his personal life. Scarlett, meanwhile, found herself both famous and infamous. She was approached by multiple agencies to exploit her new celebrity, but serious brands viewed her as a liability. She capitalized on her notoriety by launching a line of low-tier beauty products hawked relentlessly on social media. Certain tabloids praised her for bravery in exposing a billionaire, but the more discerning corners of society labeled her a shameless opportunist. She struggled with the knowledge that she might never escape the shadow of this scandal. On lonely nights in her new penthouse, a parting gift from a short-lived romance with another wealthy patron, she questioned whether she had really gained anything from this affair or simply sabotaged her own integrity. As for the public, the scandal became old news once another sensational headline captured their short attention span. Ethan Vanderbilt and Olivia Prescott Vanderbilt were yesterday's gossip, replaced by new controversies. However, the financial world did not forget so quickly. Ethan faced extra scrutiny in every new venture. Some of his bolder clients grew leery, no longer seeing him as infallible. He moved carefully, treading water to maintain his empire's stability, while balancing the turbulent waters of his personal life. On a chilly December evening, months after the scandal first broke, Olivia went into labor. The staff at Oakhaven hustled, calling the doctor and preparing to take her to the hospital. Ethan, who was in Manhattan finalizing a major business deal, was alerted immediately. Without hesitation, he dropped everything. He had a private helicopter on standby for emergencies, and this was certainly one. Within an hour, Ethan arrived at the hospital, breathless and terrified. He found Olivia already in the delivery room, her face contorted with pain, her parents at her side. She spotted Ethan, and a fleeting look of relief crossed her features before another contraction seized her. All through the grueling hours, Ethan held Olivia's hand. Each time she cried out, he whispered words of encouragement, telling her how strong she was, how close they were to finally holding their children. If she bore any lingering resentment, it was eclipsed by the primal, overwhelming task of giving birth. At precisely 2:14 a.m., the first baby emerged, a boy, Noah, with tiny, flailing limbs and a robust cry. The doctor smiled. "He's healthy," she announced, placing the newborn on Olivia's chest. A minute later, his twin sister, Sophia, followed, smaller but equally vocal about her entrance into the world. Ethan was unable to contain his tears as he beheld his children for the first time. He kissed Olivia's forehead, flooding with gratitude, regret, and awe all at once. Olivia turned to look at him, tears in her own eyes, and gave a single nod of acknowledgement. It was too soon to say if forgiveness was in the cards, but at that moment, they were bound by the pure miracle of these new lives. In the weeks following the twins' birth, a cautious peace settled over Oakhaven Manor. Olivia allowed Ethan to stay in a guest suite. He took paternal leave from Vanderbilt Capital, focusing on midnight feedings, diaper changes, and singing lullabies. The cracks in their relationship remained, but caring for their infants forged a tenuous bridge. The twins, Noah and Sophia, became the center of everyone's world. Ethan discovered that holding these fragile beings in his arms gave him a sense of purpose far beyond financial gain. Some nights he'd find Olivia gazing at him, a flicker of surprise in her eyes at how dedicated a father he'd become. Other nights, tensions rose, particularly when the memory of his betrayal loomed. But the babies acted as a balm, reminding both parents that they had two tiny reasons to try. Olivia's parents helped, but eventually they returned to their own estate, trusting that Olivia was strong enough now to stand on her own. A wave of quiet negotiations began between Olivia's legal team and Ethan's lawyer's discussions about trusts for the children, potential separation agreements, property settlements. Yet Olivia remained non-committal about a final decision. She sought more clarity on Ethan's sincerity before making her choice. At times, Ethan found himself on the edge of losing patience. He wanted redemption, wanted Olivia to declare that they could fully reconcile. But each time he felt that eagerness, he reminded himself that trust once shattered cannot be hastily mended. He forced himself to give Olivia space, to keep proving day by day that he could be the man she and their children deserved. And so, life took on a quiet rhythm. Nighttime feedings under the manor's vaulted ceilings, squeals of newborn laughter in the morning, and guarded conversations in the afternoon. Ethan learned that fatherhood wasn't just a new label. It was an all-consuming, transformative role. And Olivia, for all her heartbreak, found moments of solace, watching Ethan cradle their infants, singing lullabies in a soft, unsteady voice she'd never heard from him before. Winter gradually yielded to spring, bringing fresh growth to Oakhaven's gardens. Sunlight filtered through newly budded branches, and the estate's fountain sparkled under warmer skies. The twins reached 3 months old, their personalities beginning to blossom. Noah was feisty, always squirming, while Sophia was calmer, observing the world with large, curious eyes. One afternoon, after putting the twins down for a nap, Ethan and Olivia found themselves alone in the manor's reading room. The subdued light cast gentle shadows on the library shelves. It was the first time in weeks they'd had a private moment uninterrupted by crying babies or house staff. Olivia studied Ethan for a long moment. "I've seen a change in you," she said quietly. He felt his chest tighten. "I've never been more serious about anything. These months with the twins, with you they've shown me what really matters." Olivia pressed her lips together, tears threatening to surface. "I don't trust you fully yet," she admitted, voice trembling. "But I see you trying, and I care that our children have a real family." Ethan reached for her hand. She allowed him to take it this time, though her grip was tentative. "I love you," he said with fervor. "I always have in my own flawed way." She closed her eyes, letting tears slip through. In that vulnerable moment, Olivia acknowledged that despite the immense pain Ethan had caused, she still loved him, too. Love wasn't a neat equation. It was messy, painful, beautiful, and worth fighting for sometimes. No magical instant of absolute forgiveness followed. Instead, they shared a deep, trembling embrace. Perhaps it was the start of building anew, or maybe a final farewell. But for that moment, it was enough to close the distance that had been tearing them apart. Over time, marriage counseling sessions were arranged. Trust exercises, honest conversations, and raw confessions filled many evenings. Ethan penned a heartfelt letter to Olivia, acknowledging every lie and vow he had broken. Olivia read it through tears, then wrote a response describing her own fears and disappointments. Though the future remained uncertain, both were willing to try. For the sake of the twins, for the sake of their own hearts, they forged ahead, cautious, hopeful, and forever changed. Months passed gradually, healing old wounds, though scars lingered. Ethan and Olivia decided to continue living at Oakhaven, turning it into a sanctuary rather than a battlefield. The staff treated Ethan with polite reserve, aware of the rift in the household, but also noticing the genuine effort he invested in fatherhood. Scarlett Hayes drifted to the periphery of their lives. She launched a small cosmetics brand online, capitalizing on her short-lived tabloid fame, but her presence receded from major headlines. Ethan never reached out to her, and she, sensing no benefit to further contact, eventually moved on to new opportunities. Rumors linked her to an international art dealer, but the story never garnered much attention. In time, the media found fresh scandals to chase. Ethan's public persona stabilized as he demonstrated consistent leadership in his company, all the while making philanthropic gestures, no doubt influenced by Olivia's passions. Some cynics claimed he was simply buying redemption, but those closer to him sensed that fatherhood and near loss had sparked a more meaningful shift. Olivia remained cautious. Though she allowed Ethan back in her bed, she set firm boundaries about honesty and transparency. She demanded and received proof of Ethan's finances, phone records, and schedules. Some nights, guilt gnawed at Ethan. He realized how easily he used to lie and manipulate. Now, each day of truth felt like a small victory. In the hush of dawn, Ethan often rose to check on Noah and Sophia. He found solace in their innocent breathing, their tiny bodies nestled securely in cribs. As he watched them, he whispered apologies for his past and promises for their future. Each promise was a vow to be better, a father they could respect, a husband Olivia could count on. Exactly 1 year after Ethan's fateful return to Oakhaven with Scarlett in tow, Olivia woke before sunrise. She gazed at Ethan sleeping beside her, his hair disheveled, his face peaceful in slumber. She slipped out of bed and tiptoed to the twins' nursery. Sunlight broke over the horizon, illuminating Noah's curious expression and Sophia's gentle coos. Olivia scooped them in her arms, one on each hip, and felt a rush of gratitude so strong it nearly overwhelmed her. Shortly after, Ethan entered, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Morning," he said softly, placing a tender kiss on each baby's forehead. Then he looked at Olivia, searching her face for signs of acceptance. She offered a small smile. The tension that once gripped their every interaction had eased, replaced by a quiet understanding. They carried the twins downstairs to the breakfast table, where the staff prepared a light meal. Over coffee and pureed fruit for the babies, Olivia cleared her throat. "I have an announcement," she said, drawing Ethan's full attention. "I'm ready to give us a real chance. No more guest suite. No more half measures. But Ethan, if you ever betray me again, that's it. We're done." He felt the air rush from his lungs, relief washing over him. "I won't. I promise." He reached across the table and gently squeezed her hand, their eyes locked in a moment of unspoken agreement. Months of therapy, raw conversations, and unwavering devotion to their children had led them here, still bruised, but willing to live as a unified family. The rebuilding process had been painstaking, each day a test of Ethan's sincerity and Olivia's capacity for forgiveness. In that single instant, they both chose hope over resentment, a future over a fractured past. Years would pass, and Oakhaven Manor would echo not with the ghosts of betrayal, but with the genuine laughter of Noah and Sophia, growing up in a home where love was tested but ultimately triumphed. Ethan never forgot the abyss he had stared into, and it made him a more present husband and a deeply devoted father. Olivia, ever graceful, found a new strength in her forgiveness. Her love for Ethan deepened by the journey they had endured and conquered together. Their story became a quiet legend among their circle, a testament to the fact that even the most shattered bonds could be mended, and that true wealth wasn't in sprawling estates or soaring stock portfolios, but in the resilient, enduring power of family. From the brink of a devastating split to a fragile but genuine renewal, Ethan and Olivia's journey reminds us that no life is beyond repair, even in the face of betrayal, heartbreak, and public scandal. Sometimes the hardest lessons come wrapped in pain and regret, but it's how we grow from them that truly defines our story. Through newborn cries and sleepless nights, they discovered a new depth of love and unity, proving that second chances, while never guaranteed, can blossom if nurtured with honesty and perseverance. If this story of redemption, forgiveness, and the enduring strength of family resonated with you, please show your support. Like this video, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and most importantly, subscribe to our channel for more compelling narratives that explore the profound and often dramatic twists of life. Every story has the power to inspire, and we're grateful to share them with you. Click that subscribe button now. You won't want to miss what's next.